can clearly see from these words of the Holy Office that it would be considered a mortal sin for a priest to omit the words Mysterium Fidei, and he is bringing into question the validity of the consecration of the Mass. As it says in the front of the Roman Missal, in the front of the Roman Missal, I think I've mentioned to you, there is a section of errors, you might say, of things that priests might do during the celebration of the Mass that the church is warning them about in the front of the Missal. These are called de defectibus. That's what they're called in the front of the Roman Missal. But anyway, de defectibus chapter 5 in the Missale Romanum says, if anyone adds or takes away anything from the form of the consecration of the body and blood, even if he does not change the meaning of the form, he does confect the sacrament, but he sins grievously. So to remove those words was considered a grievous sin from de defectibus, and obviously from the words of the Holy Office. But just 11 years later, by 1969, the words Mysterium Fidei are gone from the new Missal. Completely removed. So it calls into question the consecration in the Novus Ordo Mass. Now, the Roman Missale says that they confect the sacrament, but they sin grievously. That's why Archbishop Lefebvre always said that even though the words of the consecration were changed, we can say that the Novus Ordo Mass, that Archbishop Lefebvre, I don't think, ever said that the Novus Ordo Mass was invalid. But he does say, and so many other priests have said, that it is doubtful because of what they've done. As you know, they haven't only removed the words mystery of faith, they also changed the words for you and for many to you and for all. And we'll come to that in a moment. But let me just continue talking to you a little bit about the consecration of the chalice. I wanted to read to you from St. Thomas Aquinas. This is from the Summa Theologica on the words of the consecration. Now, the question is whether this is the proper form of the consecration of the wine, this is the chalice, my blood, etc. Now, it's a long, I don't want to read all this because it's a long recitation, and I think that it would be hard for you to follow all of this, but let me just read to you a little bit of what St. Thomas Aquinas writes in the question 78, Tertia Pars. That is the third part of the Summa, question 78, article 3. As I said, I'm going to just skip over a little bit and read to you the most essential part. He writes, some have maintained that the words, this is the chalice, my blood, that those words alone belong to the substance of this form, but not those words which follow. In other words, that it's enough just to say, this is the chalice, my blood. But St. Thomas says, this seems incorrect, because the words which follow them are determinations of the predicate, that is, of Christ's blood. Consequently, they belong to the integrity of the expression. And on this account, others say more accurately that all the words which follow are of the substance of the form, down to the words, as often as you shall do this in remembrance of me. St. Thomas says, all these words belong to the use of this sacrament. And consequently, which all the words belong to the use of this sacrament. Hence, it is that the priest pronounces all these words under the same rite and manner, namely, holding the chalice in his hands. He says, consequently, it must be said that all the aforesaid words belong to the substance of the form, but that by the first words, this is the chalice of my blood, the change of the wine into blood is denoted. And then he goes on, but he's explaining to you that all these words are part of the form of the consecration. That is, St. Thomas isn't going to, the church has never made a pronouncement about this, but you can see from what St. Thomas Aquinas is saying, and most of the theologians, that it is not enough just to say, this is the cup of my blood. That all the words are part of the consecration. So it is rather difficult. I'm not trying to make a pronouncement here that the church has never made. I'm just pointing out to you that to change the words of the consecration calls into question the validity of that Mass that is being celebrated. It certainly makes us wonder, is this valid? Is this Mass valid? I think all the theologians would agree that the Blessed Sacrament would be there, as long as it's a valid priest and he's using those words and he means to confect the sacrament. Just saying the words, this is my body, this is my blood, would certainly, our Lord would be there. But the whole form of the consecration of the chalice is part of the Mass, is part of the sacrament. And so we're simply questioning what they have done. We're questioning the validity of what they have done. So it does bring things into doubt, and we have to wonder too when we see that in the translation of the new Mass that they've also changed the words for you and for all, you and for many, to you and for all. You know that those words are also changed in the vernacular. When the priests say the Latin Mass, that is the Novus Ordo Mass in Latin, the words are still in Latin pro multis, for many. But in the translations into the vernacular languages, almost everywhere, the translation is now for you and for all. And you might wonder, why is that? Why did they change the words? Why did they take out the words Mysterium Fidei? And now why did they change the words to for all? It just seems strange. If we're trying to say exactly the words that our Lord used, which are written in the sacred scriptures that have been said since the time of the apostles, why would you ever dare to change those words in any slight way? But that's what they've done in the new Mass. And that's why we cannot accept it and why we do not go along with it. Because even if there's a chance that it is valid, there's still a doubt about it, as we've said, because they've changed the words of the consecration. There are things that are being called into doubt, into question. Now, pro multis, our Lord said those words, for you and for many, unto the remission of sins. Now, we all know that Jesus died for everyone when he died on the cross. But not all benefit from his death on the cross. That is, not all will have their sins remitted. And it's through their own fault. Because the blood of Christ is, of course, enough to wash away any and all sins throughout the history of the world. But through their own fault, they are not able to benefit from the Holy Mass, from the sacrifice of our Lord. And so the words are, for you and for many, unto the remission of sins. When our Lord said the Last Supper, said the first Mass, at the Last Supper, he used the words, this is the cup of my blood, which shall be shed for you and for many unto the remission of sins.